Determined to reconnect with the world, Isabelle began to search for ways to contact her loved ones, desperate for any means of making them see her. She called her best friend Lily's number again, hoping for a clear line, but was met only with static. Yet, she sensed something familiar on the other end, a faint, distant echo of Lily's voice, but it was distorted, as though trapped on the edge of a dream. Frustrated, Isabelle moved to the mirror in the hallway, studying her reflection intently. Her face was pale, her features faded at the edges. She reached out, touching the glass, half expecting her hand to pass through, and was startled when she felt its cold, solid surface. But as she focused, something changed. A mist seemed to swirl around her reflection, revealing flashes of images from her past moments of laughter with friends, walks in the park, holiday gatherings. They played like faint, flickering memories just beyond her reach, reminding her of a life slipping further and further away. Desperate, Isabelle spoke aloud. "I'm still here. I'm not gone, I'm still here." But only silence answered her. Days passed in a blur, each one filled with small, desperate attempts to reach out to the world she had left behind. She tried writing messages, moving objects, even flicking light switches in hopes that someone would notice. But her efforts felt futile. She was like a shadow, a whisper passing through unnoticed. But then, on an early morning, something changed. She saw her sister Margaret enter the house, her eyes puffy with tears. Margaret moved through the rooms in a daze, pausing by Isabelle's old belongings and pressing her hand to her mouth as though holding back a sob. Isabelle felt a surge of hope as she reached out to her sister, calling her name, willing her presence to be known. "Margaret, it's me," she cried, moving closer, trying to reach her, to touch her. As if sensing a shift, Margaret froze, glancing around as though she could feel someone watching her. Isabelle felt a jolt of energy as she moved closer, but before she could reach out, Margaret shook her head, brushing away her tears. She whispered, "I miss you, Isabelle," and then, with one last glance, she left the room. Isabelle felt a hollow ache as her sister's presence faded, leaving her once again alone in the silence. Days blended into nights as Isabelle's attempts to make contact grew more desperate. One evening, she wandered her home, and her gaze settled on a dusty book left open on the shelf. As she approached, she saw her name scrawled inside, written in Lily's handwriting, a gift given years ago. The familiar penmanship stirred something within her, and she found herself focusing intently on the book, willing it to move, hoping to make even the faintest sound. With all her strength, she pushed her will into the motion, and finally, with a soft thud, the book fell from the shelf. In the stillness that followed, she felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps even as a ghostly presence, she could still make herself known, her story not yet completely faded. Just as Isabelle began to lose hope, the voice returned, a gentle, warm whisper calling her name. She felt a rush of warmth, a recognition. This time the voice was clearer, more distinct, and her heart raced. "Isabelle," the voice whispered, filled with love and sadness. Isabelle closed her eyes, focusing on it. "Please, hear me, help me," she whispered, her voice filled with desperation. The voice continued, growing softer. "You're almost home." The words filled her with a strange mix of hope and dread. She realized that she was trapped on a thin line between the realms of life and death, and if she was to return, she would need to face the truth of her accident and find a way back to her body. A newfound determination filled her, knowing that there was still a chance, however slim, that she could break free from this ghostly existence and rejoin the world of the living.